Hello and welcome. If you are watching this video, you're likely registered to submit a traditional WPE portfolio in October 2025. So this is the October 2025 WPE workshop for the reading set topic, Memory and Identity. My name is Betsy Gomez and I am the Associate Director of the Writing Proficiency Program. We'll be joined by Program Coordinator Rose Mooney later in the presentation. Please make sure to bookmark our website, which is www.umb.edu/WPE. Our website houses some really helpful content, such as the detailed WPE portfolio requirements, grading criteria, the WPE schedule, and then also copies of our resources like the grid notes and this workshop. You can also use the website to book quick question or hold release appointments via the link on our main page, and you can also schedule tutoring under the Resources for Students page. We've designed this short workshop so you can get familiar with the WPE grading standards and the portfolio requirements, and we'll go over the submission process and submission schedule as well. Then we'll take some time to offer advice on how to write a successful WPE essay. This will include a discussion on what kind of essay to write, how to incorporate and give credit to sources, and how to make sure that you are answering the essay prompt. Finally, we will model how you can use an organizational tool like our grid notes to create an index of important quotes, just to make sure that your challenge essay effectively engages with all of your sources. It is helpful to familiarize yourself with the criteria for ERAP and WPE, which are the grading standards that will be used to grade your submission. The criteria was created by faculty at UMass Boston some time ago, and it's directly related to the aims of the general education program. According to the general education program, writing proficiency involves critical thinking, critical reading, and elements of writing. These three capabilities are demonstrated within an essay by the following criteria: writing with a clear purpose, effectively utilizing source material, and organization. Keep in mind that you're not expected to write a perfect essay. You're still, in college, you're still a student, and you're still learning and growing as a thinker and as a writer. The graders really expect your essay to demonstrate intermediate proficiency in writing. And since they're only using those three criteria, this means that the WPE is not a spelling or grammar exam. Instead, you are being graded on whether your essay clearly answers the prompt, on whether you engage with and utilize your sources in a way that support your answer to the question, and on whether your essay is organized in a clear and understandable manner. It is very important that you write an essay that shows your thinking and your point of view. We'll continue to remind you about this throughout the workshop just because it's that important. For more context on how the WPE essays are graded, the challenge essays are graded on a scale of 1 to 9. Developing essays earn scores between 1 and 3. Proficient essays earn scores between 4 and 6. And exemplary essays earn scores between 7 and 9. To pass the WPE, your essay must earn a score of 4 or higher from 2 different graders. Course papers provide a supporting role. The graders may consult them to assist with difficult decisions. For example, if your challenge essay is strong in the areas of focus and organization, but not as strong in source use, the graders may take a look at your course papers to determine whether those course papers show that you are proficient in your use of sources. Now we are going to spend a short time going over the different grading criteria. So the first criteria for grading is the purpose category. Writing with a clear purpose involves having a sustained focus on a position, argument, or inquiry. So your position, argument, or inquiry, those are all determined by what you think, usually in response to a prompt or assignment. A proficient essay clearly states its focus and maintains that focus throughout the entire essay, and a proficient essay presents a methodical, connected discussion. So basically, you'll need to answer the prompt that is on page 1 of the reading set for memory and identity. And it should use the readings, which we will go over in a sec. But that really should be what your essay is concerned with, right? Answering the prompt, making some sort of argument in response to the prompt, and sustaining that throughout the entire essay. Effective use of source material is the second criteria for grading. And that basically consists of carefully selecting, integrating, and explaining the source material that you're using, and also applying it meaningfully in service of your essay's purpose. To use sources effectively typically means that you'll move beyond just summarizing the ideas in the texts and towards meaningful engagement with those ideas. A proficient essay engages in conversation with sources by connecting the source's ideas to your essay's purpose and argument. A proficient essay also relates the source's ideas and materials to your own ideas and makes that relevance explicit. And a proficient essay explains and contextualizes ideas from sources, possibly by briefly reviewing the source's argument, putting their ideas into your own words, or illustrating them with fresh examples. The source material you need to use for the October WPE are the readings in the WPE reading set. So the reading set has 4 articles, one by Melnichuk, Spencer, Dillard, and then Mazzoni. The first reading by Melnichuk is optional, but the other 3 are required, and you should pay really special attention to using all of the required readings, and honestly just using all of them just to kind of have a more robust argument. Please don't include any sources not in the reading set. Don't go out and do outside research. Don't use any other source that's not in the reading set. Part of the assignment is, what can you do with the prompt and the sources that you're given. The last criteria for grading is organization, and organization guides the audience from paragraph to paragraph with effective transitions and connections between paragraphs. So organization basically indicates your awareness that your reader needs to be guided through the flow of your ideas. In a proficient essay, each paragraph signals a new idea and explains how that new idea is explicitly related to the previous paragraph and the overall purpose of the essay. And in a proficient essay, sentences are clear to the reader, and each sentence has a meaningful connection to the other sentences in the paragraph. So you might see that, within a paragraph with a topic sentence, transitions, that sort of thing, just to kind of signal to the reader, this is what my paragraph is about, this is how it relates to my overall argument. Now I'm going to move on to the next paragraph, and so on and so forth. The portfolio requirements include the challenge essay. So that's the new essay that you'll be writing for the October WPE. And that is absolutely required. And it should be at least 1,500 words or longer. And you'll also need to submit 3 course papers written for courses you've written for courses at UMass Boston. 2 of those papers can be a little bit on the shorter side, 750 words or longer, but one ideally should be at least 1,250 words or longer. You'll also need to submit a confirmation form that will be available to you closer to the submission deadline. The confirmation form basically is a place for you to confirm who you are, confirm that you wrote your paper on your own, and that you're submitting everything that you're required to submit. If this is your first semester as a transfer student, which I think is unlikely for a mid-semester WPE, but in any case, if this is your first semester, submission of 3 course papers and a challenge essay, it's a little bit different for you. If you're in your first semester ever, you still need to write the challenge essay, but you only need to submit 2 course papers. And really, if you are afraid that you don't have enough course papers, if you're not sure of what you need to submit, you can always send us an email. We'll talk more about the types of papers that you can include in your portfolio in the next slide. In terms of the course papers that you're submitting along with that challenge essay, the first rule really is that the papers must be from a course that you took at UMass Boston. You cannot submit any assignment from another school. Ideally, each paper must be from a different course. 2 papers can be from your intermediate seminar. That's pretty common if you did take the intermediate seminar. So that would be the 200 level course with the G at the end of the course number. At least 1 paper must be from a 200 level course or higher. The intermediate seminar is a great example of that. That is a 200 level course. All the papers that you submit should be working with sources, and the reason for that really is that since that's one of the grading criteria, you should submit essays that you think meet that criteria. With advanced approval, 1 paper can be based on observations, such as a lab report or a case study. Just send us an email and include those papers to writing.proficiency@umb.edu. If those papers are long enough and we think, this is okay to submit, we'll write you a note basically allowing you to include that. Ideally, your papers should be analytical, use evidence, such as quoting from sources, and present an argument that supports a position, point of view, or answer to a question. Again, that's because those are the criteria that you're going to be graded on. And while the challenge essay is the main piece that we'll be grading, remember that the course papers are there kind of as backup. In any event, if you're not sure that you have enough papers for whatever reason, maybe you've taken a long break between a couple of semesters, whether you're not sure your papers kind of meet the criteria, just send us an email and include those papers and we'll take a look at them. If you're worried you don't have enough, just send us an email again or schedule an appointment with us. Like I mentioned earlier, you can go to our website and there's a link to schedule a quick question appointment. Essentially, we want you to submit your portfolio and we'll do your best to make sure that that happens in October. Regardless of whether you started your studies at UMass Boston, this fall or this summer or 3 years ago, everyone who's signed up for this October WPE submission needs to include a challenge essay based on the WPE reading set and prompt. We will not grade any portfolio submitted to the October WPE that doesn't include the challenge essay. When you registered for the WPE, you should have received an email confirmation which included a link to access the reading set. This slide has basically like a little screenshot of what that looks like. If you can't find this message, just let us know and we'll make sure to send you the reading set. We also send you an email like every Friday with updates on what's going on in our office, you know, what support offerings we're having in the next couple of weeks. And typically the first item on that update email each Friday is the link to the reading set. So there's a lot of ways to get this reading set. Make sure that when you do click on that link, I really suggest that you download it to your computer if you use a computer or tablet. Download it on your phone if that's how you read your stuff. Just make sure that you have it and that you start looking at it as soon as you can. If this is your first time submitting a WPE portfolio, you're probably wondering, how does submission work? How do I submit? Maybe you've already written your paper and you're like, I really want to submit this. Essentially, you'll be submitting on Canvas. That's the most common way that students will be submitting. We do have to wait for the registration period to close before we enroll all students in the Canvas course. But by October 15th, all registered students will be enrolled in the Canvas course CAS 015, and we'll email you submission instructions. You'll have, you know, until October 17th before midnight to upload your portfolio to Canvas. There will be a few of you who might be watching this, you know, who aren't taking classes currently. If that's the case, you'll be submitting on OneDrive because we can't enroll you in a Canvas course if you're not enrolled in courses. If you just basically wait for the email on October 15th, that'll tell you here are the Canvas instructions or here are the OneDrive instructions. Either way, it'll be pretty simple, and you'll have until the 17th by 11:59 p.m. to upload your work. We will grade portfolios the following week. So we'll grade portfolios between October 21 and 23rd. And then we'll send results that Friday, October 24th, by after 5 p.m. So just wait until the end of the day to get your result. When you get your result, you'll either get a pass result, which means that your essay was graded as proficient or exemplary and that you've completed the WPE. If you receive a retake result, that means that the WPE graders did not find that your submission met the grading criteria. If you do receive a retake score, first I just want to acknowledge that that's stressful, frustrating, probably infuriating, and the email that tells you your result doesn't have a lot of information about why you got the retake. And that's not to be cruel, that's actually because we want you to meet with us. If you get a retake score, we want you to meet with us as soon as you can to go over your result. So that retake message will have information for how to sign up for what we call retake counseling, which is basically a meeting that you have on Zoom with a faculty member who's graded for the WPE, and they'll go over your result and review the comments that the graders made on your challenge essay. As long as you meet with a retake counselor between October 27th and October 31st, you will also have the opportunity to revise your essay using the feedback from your retake counseling appointment. Revisions are due a week after you meet with your counselor, and you're only able to revise if you meet with a counselor, right? You need that feedback in order to revise. Revisions will be graded by new faculty members, so not the same faculty members who graded you initially. And they'll have access basically to your entire portfolio, like your course papers, the original challenge essay that you submitted, and then your revision. So that's basically a brand new attempt to try to pass the October WPE. If your revision attempt passes, then you've passed the WPE and you'll be all set with that requirement. But if your revision attempt is not found to be proficient, you will need to attempt the WPE again. The next WPE will be for a January 2026 submission, and registration will open for that on our website on December 1st.
We are now moving on to the advice portion of our workshop. These are just a few tips to keep in mind as you start working on your WPE challenge essay. The most important component of a WPE challenge essay is your own thinking. If you don't express your ideas and provide logical support for your own ideas, you will not pass the WPE. Remember that the grading standards, focus, source use, and organization are all tied to your own thinking. Our first piece of advice include a few do's and don'ts. Our first don't is don't write a report. Do write an essay. Do use the reading set sources, but don't over-summarize. Do instead engage with the sources. Finally, whether you quote, summarize, or paraphrase, do give credit when you are using someone else's ideas or words. Always give credit. We will break down this advice in more detail in the next couple of slides. The main difference between a report and an essay is that a report may have a lot of summary and is meant to inform the audience about something. An essay has a small amount of summary. In an essay, the writer's goal is to persuade the audience that their argument is correct or important. You are the writer here, and your goal is to convince your readers. In an essay, you will take a position and present an argument that is supported by information and logic. As mentioned earlier, your own thinking is essential. The graders want to know what you think. It is important to answer the question as soon as possible, ideally in the first paragraph. Your position or thesis statement is important because it is the heart of your essay. You can employ phrases from the question to create your position. For instance, the prompt asks, how are we and our people defined by what we remember and forget? So your response might look like, we and our people are defined by what we remember and forget in the following ways. This, and something else. This example sets up the answer to the prompt, which will encourage you to answer the question with clear examples to support your main argument. Pay attention to the question, how are we and our people defined by what we remember and forget? When you are breaking down the question, consider what you might need to analyze in order to answer the question. For example, you might ask yourself, what is memory and how does it work? What is identity and how do we come to have one? How do others, or our people, influence our identity? In what way or manner and by what means are we or our people defined by what we remember? In what way or manner, by what means are we and our people defined by what we forget? Above all else, show the graders what you think. Your essay would need to go into all of these parts of the question in detail, using the reading set material to support your answer. That doesn't mean, though, that you have to agree with everything in the reading set. You could certainly argue against one or more of the sources, just make sure you explain why you disagree. The WPE graders will be familiar with the reading set, so you don't need to summarize it in detail. Instead, use the reading set material to expand on your own argument. Here's an example of what that can look like. It does make sense that a person's memories form the basis for their identity. However, Diller's essay suggests that the relationship between memories and identity is more complicated than this. In analyzing her experience in Ghana when she, an African-American woman, was mistaken by a black woman as white, she reveals how important other people's memories and lack of memories are in shaping our identities. She records her response in her journal. The shifting ground of African identity through Ghanaian eyes neither here nor there, neither African nor American, neither recognizably black nor white. A stranger's failure to recognize Dillard's African-American identity sends Dillard tumbling into distress and confusion. For her, this experience is particularly difficult because the African diaspora has violently separated her from the cultural memories of the place her people came from, and these are memories that cannot be replaced. When an old woman in the plantain seller's stall doesn't recognize Dillard, she is being identified as alien by a person who does possess those cultural memories. Her experience highlights an important aspect of identity that we tend to overlook: the role of other people's memories. What our people remember and forget about us is a source of our identity. When we are recognized, known, and remembered by others, it helps to define who we are. Notice that this example uses the reading set material with some summary, but also directly engages with the material, using quotes and paraphrases to explain a main idea. The final sentence echoes back to the prompt, which shows focus. It is important that the graders can differentiate between your ideas and those of the authors of the reading set. This means that you should be careful and make sure to cite when you use someone else's ideas. When you use summary, you briefly spell out the main points of something. When you paraphrase, you reword someone else's statement. A direct quotation is taken directly from the text. Here are a few examples of what summary, direct quotes, and paraphrases can look like. The grid notes are a tool that you can use in the reading, drafting, and editing stages of your writing process. You can use them to make an index of important ideas and quotes in the reading set, and to make sure you're engaging with all of the sources in the reading set. The grid notes can help you create an index of important ideas in the reading set. You can see that the student has filled out the page numbers where they believe these ideas are discussed. It can be useful to keep an index, as it might make it easier for you to see connections and differences between the readings, and will also help you select quotes that you can include in your essay. You can use the grid notes to try to synthesize the sources. This means that instead of using the sources separately, you can use them together to support your own argument. Please don't overlook the resources available to you this WPE cycle. Tutoring is available from now through October 10th. We offer both in-person and remote appointments. And on October 14th through 16th, we will offer draft reviews. When you sign up for a draft review, you are reserving a staff member's time. You will not be meeting with a tutor one-on-one. Instead, you will send us your essay draft before your appointment time, and then your tutor will email you feedback. The link to sign up for draft reviews will be sent via email in our weekly update on October 10th. This concludes the October 2025 WPE workshop. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us via email. We will answer you as soon as we can. Good luck with the writing process.